Bobby, you've been dreaming again.
Still don't know what it is or where it comes from, but there's something there. Where'd you see all this, Bobby?
Transmitting live from Planet X. It's the Live from Planet X podcast. I'm your host, Zaire, the Planet X ambassador. Tonight we have a very special guest, a hip-hop legend, MC/producer. It's the man you all love and know, Kwame is in the house with us tonight. So yo, grab yourself a cup of joe, get yourself something to smoke, do whatever you gotta do. Just keep it locked to the Live from Planet X podcast. Let's go.
Hip-hop and strange and paranormal. Today we have a special guest. It's the man you all love and know. We got Kwame in the house with us tonight.
Yo, what's up?
Salute, Kwame. Thank you for being here with us. And just let people know, in 1989, at the age of 16, Kwame released his debut album, which he also produced with the aid of Herbie Lovebug. And it's a new beginning. The album spawned the singles The Man We All Know and Love, classic, and The Rhythm, another classic. And it was just a movement back then with the polka dots, and the production design became Kwame's trademark and also a hip-hop fashion trend. He has produced for many artists such as LL Cool J, Mary J. Blige, Keyshia Cole, Missy Elliott, and Christina Aguilera, just to name a few. In 2004, he had a major success as a co-producer with Eminem of Lloyd Banks' smash hit song On Fire. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has sold over 30 million records. Kwame, once again, welcome, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm not going to get on you with the misinformation about the co-production on Fire, but that's cool. We good.
Oh, my bad.
Nah, it's good. I'm messing with you, man.
Sure, if there's any discrepancies, please let the people know.
Nah, it's all good. Things water under the bridge. You know, you produce a record and people throw their names on it and then try to say they co-produced the record. You know, things happen like that. But it's all good.
Gotcha. Well, man, I like to keep my questions eclectic. What was it at the age of 16? Like, what inspired you to get into hip hop, and what made you want to just start emceeing yourself?
Well, for me, because of my age, you know, I was deep in hip hop since I was 8 years old. You know what I'm saying? So from the time Sugar Hill Gang dropped Rapper's Delight, I was all in. So, you know, me becoming a recording artist is more just an evolution of a culture that I was all the way in from its commercial inception. So for me, it was like I never knew if I could make a career out of being an artist. You know, I was at that time going to school to be an illustrator. Actually, I draw. And I
draw too.
Yeah, man. And so that was my thing. I thought I was gonna grow up, become an illustrator or something along that, some kind of designer, maybe architect, something along that line. But, you know, doing hip hop wasn't like something. It's weird. It wasn't something that I quote unquote fell into. It was just something that I did. So by the time I'm 16 years old, I'm already doing in the hip hop culture for a good 6-7 years. You understand what I'm saying? So, but what really set it off was seeing people that I actually knew become hip hop superstars. Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, Cool G Rap. These are people in my neighborhood. Eric B. These are just the regular people in my neighborhood becoming superstars and now legends of hip hop today. So, that was one of the main catapults to really just get my mind really focused on making this a career.
Word. And you've had a very successful career, in the eyes of many underground people who never get the chance to make it, man. I remember when you came up, definitely back in the days when you first came out, that's when I was living up in Jersey. You had me and my brother was rocking the polka dot outfits. We had the high top fades and all that. You know what I'm saying? I had the high top fade with the half moon step.
Yeah, man. It was definitely a cultural phenomenon at the time. It was nothing that was planned. It was nothing that was, preconceived or anything like that. I was just doing me. And,
right.
I feel like making it is subjective. It's people see things on film and on TV and say, okay, I want to get to that point because that must mean you made it. And I never really looked at it like that. The way I always saw it is, as long as I have an opportunity to do what I love doing, which is creating art, that's the success within itself. Because everything else after that is politics. Everything else after that is subjective. Everything after that is somebody's opinion, whether it's hot or not, or this, that, and the third. And then when you start playing into that game, you're going, that's a whole nother realm that I don't think a lot of people are really equipped for. You know what I'm saying? So I think the goal and the focus for me was always to find ways to keep creating art, big or small, because that's the thing that I always wanted to pursue and I love doing. So
I follow you on Instagram and I see you drop the vids which you got the MPC 2000 XL there. And I was wondering, what was your first drum machine, and how did you get into actual beat making?
Well, my first drum machine, let's be clear, when I was a kid, my first drum machine was a set of drums, and I made my beats off of playing live drums and then taping the drums and then retaping me playing the drums and then playing the piano on top of that and then retaping that. So I was making my own 3-4 track music before I was able to even have a drum machine. And then from there, Herbie Lovebug would go on tour and we would sneak in his room and steal his drum machines. So I was learning I learned my first drum machine I ever learned how to use was the 808. Then, went to the DX, Oberheim. And then from there, I learned how to use the SP12 and then the SP1200. So I did my first album on the SP12, the SP1200, and this thing and the keyboard that goes with it called the emulator. I actually did my first 2 albums on the SP1200. And, by the time I started making some money, the first drum machine I bought was an MPC 60. So, I learned
on the MPC 62. That's what I learned on the MPC 60.
Yeah. I never got into the 2. I just went from the 60, then I got the 3000, and from the 3000 to 2000, and then the 2000 XL. And, honestly, for me, that's my drum machine of choice. There's nothing I can't do on it. So anything that, yeah, man, any of the newer drum machines, just that's fine, it's cool, but you're not giving me anything that I haven't already done. So it's okay, I'm sticking to my weapon of choice.
Right. Let me ask you, as a producer, man, and you make some dope ass beats, what do you do to get into the zone make some beats? Like, well, what's your ingredients?
I'm always thinking of music, so it's like I don't have to necessarily do anything. I just like, everybody has their own regiment when they want to get into music. I personally like to make music first thing in the morning. When there's nobody calling me, there's nobody awake, there's nothing, there's no inhibitions there. It's like, I like to get up 5 a.m. and I will literally crawl out of bed and go into the studio and start creating. And so by the time 9:30, 10 o'clock rolls around, I finish what I wanted to make. That's my ideal time to make beats. I like to work when everybody is sleeping. I'm not the type of person that likes to make beats in the middle of the night. I don't like working late at night. I like to work, during the day and have the night to myself. But that's pretty much about it, man. I'm always like I look for inspiration all the time. Maybe a noise inspires me. Maybe just random sounds inspire me. I'm not the type, I like to dig and look for samples and all that kind of stuff. That's great too. But I find myself more appreciating the record than trying to sample anything. So, excuse me, I try to, that cough was not the corona. I just try to find inspiration and sounds anywhere and everywhere. I listen to all kinds of music. Probably the least amount of music I listen to is hip hop. There's nothing. I'm not hearing anything new. So it's like, there's no stimulation in listening to an overabundance of the music that I create. So I try to find stimulation in other kind of forms of music. It could be anything, man. I will listen to any kind of music and get inspiration from it.
True. What's your favorite recording medium? Like, what do you like to record on? A lot of people like Pro Tools.
Pro Tools. Pro Tools.
What do you like? Pro Tools?
Yeah. Like I'll make music in Logic, or I have a lot of hardware, a lot of VSTs and stuff like that. But the actual recording process, vocals, mixing, editing, I'd prefer Pro Tools.
Nice. My brother loves Pro Tools. I never really got into Pro Tools. For me, it's been Sonar. I've been using Sonar. I love Sonar. Like, for me, I feel like there's nothing I can't really do in it. But
well, see, like Pro Tools has always been the industry standard. Like when you're running in a, if the more professional medium that you run in, you'll find that the higher professionals will always be using Pro Tools. So it's like, Pro Tools, Final Cut Pro, just there's certain programs, maybe even Logic, between Pro Tools and Logic, those are the industry standards. So, I try to stay within that parameter because I don't ever want to be in a situation, thrown into a studio or, and asked to create on the spot and I don't know what I'm working on.
How does it feel being considered a hip-hop fashion icon? Because you really are. Have people said that to you before?
Yeah, but you know what?
The whole landscape of New York City and the tri-state area at the time.
You know what? I don't really, I try my best to not, I don't know. What my thing is, I appreciate it. I appreciate, any positive label that someone puts on me, but at the same time, I'm just in go mode at all the time. I don't sit around and really think about it, or I don't know how to articulate that. I don't sit around and really peep the scene on what people quote unquote say about me that much. I just try to. I believe how about this? I've always believed when I was younger, a rapper's position in the media was very different than what it is now. So when I was younger and the rappers that are around me were out, we made it a point that we were going to be seen other than just a random drug dealer or some thug dude in the street, because that's what we knew older people thought of rappers. So, you know, you could take people like me, you could take people like De La Soul, Public Enemy. Everybody had their own take on how they wanted to be seen and wanted to be represented. And for me, I've always wanted to be seen and represented as the guy that didn't have to wear the fat gold chain or the sweatsuit or the sneakers or the Kango. You know, I was able to say, you know what, no, I want to switch it up and make it a little bit more classic, a little bit more sophisticated. And then other rappers would do somewhat similar things like Slick Rick or Big Daddy Kane. You know, they had their own take on it. But that was about it. It wasn't, you know, and I wish I was a little bit more forward thinking and business minded and saying, okay, people are following this trend. Maybe I should be able to capitalize on it. And, you know, I could have been the first Sean John or Rockaway or, you know, whatever. I didn't think of it like that. I just didn't want to be represented. I didn't want myself to be represented as just the random street dude trying to rap, you know, so I dressed the way I dressed. What'd you say?
Okay, so I can see you coming out with a line, you know what I'm saying? I bet you a lot of people would support that too, man.
Oh, no, I think that it is something that, I know that it's something that I'm definitely exploring the possibilities. I've been having meetings and talks with different manufacturers to do it and do it right. You know, everybody want to say they have a clothing line and they just, you know, they put out a t-shirt with their name on it and then all of a sudden it's a clothing line. I'm way too deep into fashion to want to do something like that, you know, and there's nothing against people doing that. But for me, I can't, you know, I gotta step it up a little bit more than that.
You know, speaking, you said you're always in go mode, and I mean your credits speak for itself. Coming from the underground point of view, like how do you get those connects to be able to like land those places like that? Like that's a blessing.
I don't think there's no formula to that. I think everybody who gets placements gets it their own different way. Everybody. There's no two people that get placements the same way. Because, you know, you could have a big manager and, you know, I know people, you think about it. Like, let's take Swizz Beatz as, for example. I'm just going to use him as an example. The majority of Swizz's placements was based on the fact that his cousin created a record label and put him in the arena to produce all the artists on the label. So all of a sudden you go from 0 to 100 placements in 2 years. You know, no one else is going to have that situation. So you can't ask Swizz, oh, how do you get placements? Well, you get a cousin that gets a record label, you get the same placement like Swizz. You know what I'm saying? So the same for me. My placements are always based on, it's never through an A&R, it's never through a manager. It's, you know, artists that recognize me as an artist, that recognize the thing that I do, and then we just sit and have an artist conversation, and it leads to a record. But that's my, you know what I'm saying? That's my story. Somebody else's story can be something totally different, you know. And everybody has that situation. The only thing that I tell producers in general is, stop waiting for somebody to give you a placement. Create an artist and create your own placements. Period. Like, for example, like I'm doing that right now. Like, you know, if I sat around, you know, every producer has a run, every producer has a good time frame where they get a lot of work and then sometimes they just disappear. You never know. But for me, you know, one of my artists is a R&B artist named Vivian Green. You know,
shout out, big up Vivian Green.
Yeah.
Dr. Post a lot. He's out in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He put me on the Vivian Green like a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's my man. So with Vivian, you know, we just started working and we just started putting these records out. And cool. And we started working, we started putting these records out. And, you know, it's 10 records per album. So for me, that's 10 placements. It's me creating my own work. And I try to tell producers, you got to create your own work. Nobody's going to create your work for you. Nobody's going to hand you nothing. Nobody's going to do anything until you create your own work. And it's like you see people come out, you know, looks like they came out the woodwork. No, they were around for years creating their own work, and then it turned into something else, it turned into something else, and it turned into something else that finally somebody saw. You know, and to me, it's like that. It's not a simple thing. It's not an easy thing. It's not a quick solution to it. You know, and you know, this game is not for the weak, man. You gotta, like I said, you gotta be in go mode at all times. Some people start early, some people start late. The whole key is to not stop the pursuit. You know what I'm saying?
Right, no doubt. You know, my good buddy Dwayne, he wanted me to tell you thank you. He said you're one of his favorite old school artists, and he wanted me to ask you, how do you feel about the current state of hip hop, where it's at now, and where do you see it going?
You know, I think, you know, hip hop. I had a conversation with somebody just the other day about hip hop today, and you know, that's like the key question they usually ask. You know, older cats is like, what do you think about hip hop now? And I, a lot of older cats just don't like it, and they consider it trash. They consider it non-creative, and I can understand that. And you know, those personal feelings, how I personally feel about a lot of rap, that's just my personal business, and I don't think it's worth me saying how I personally feel about certain rappers or certain songs. But what I will say as a whole is, I remember when in '89, when cats like me and other rappers came out, the rappers from '79 thought that our stuff was trash. You know what I'm saying?
I was in like the 8th or 9th grade, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I definitely grew up in that era.
Yeah, so my argument has always been, I'm not gonna trash this new music, whether I like it or not. I'm never gonna trash it, because there is a 8th grader, 9th grader, 10th grader that absolutely loves this. And when they become 25, 30, 40, this is their golden era. Whether I like it or not, this is their golden era. So I gotta respect that. I think that rappers, what I do not like is, when I was a kid, I had a full awareness of who came before me. And I had a full awareness of different artists, different art forms. The radio played a lot of different things. And that's what kind of built hip hop. You know, hip hop was based on a bunch of different art forms coming together. I think now it's one-sided. It's all one thing. And looking at it, everything can't be about pills. Everything can't be about trap. Every female can't possibly be a stripper. You know what I'm saying? It's like the ones that are put in the front, because I know there's so many different type of rappers out, but the ones that are put in the front seem to be the same exact thing over and over and over again. And we've allowed hip hop to become a mass produced fast food instead of something that we can really get into. But to that argument, when people say, a lot of people say that argument is, well, if you want to hear something different, go look for it. Stop waiting for people to feed you stuff and go look for the underground stuff that's dope. Go look for the alternative stuff that's dope. You're in front of a phone. You're in front of a computer all day. Google is your friend. Go search it. Get on iTunes, get on Spotify, find one artist that feels the way you want your hip hop to be, and then search for the other artists that are like that. We have so much information out here and we have so much opportunity to find and create. There should be no reason to beef about one thing without finding the other. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Well, Kwame, man, once again, I thank you for being on the Live from Planet X podcast. And now I got to hit you with an off-the-wall question. Have you ever had any strange or paranormal sighting, or is there anything?
Man, I've been waiting for you to give me the paranormal question. That's why I did the podcast, man. You talking to me about studio?
No doubt. We mix it up.
Nah, man. That's what I thought we was gonna get into. So yeah, of course, man. Of course, all the time, forever. It's not, like the paranormal. I think is it's always prevalent and always present. My question for you is, what made you have a podcast that mixes the paranormal in with the music?
No doubt. And to answer that, I tell you, I was born in 1974, so you can gauge the era and time I grew up in. Growing up in the 80s in New Jersey. I love 80s music. I love hip hop. I remember dancing at my mom and dad's wedding to Sugar Hill, Rapid Delight when I was a little kid. I remember that, and I remember hearing that, and then hearing Run DMC, my friend blasting Run DMC when I was a little kid. That just had me hooked. I was hooked from then. And growing up at that time, I remember going to school and in the library coming across these books about UFOs and looking at the strange black and white pictures and, looking into it and just thinking this is crazy. This is real. This is fake. And then I just did more and more research. Started watching shows like Unsolved Mysteries, Ancient Aliens, listen to Coast AM. And I love the topic. I've seen a UFO before with witnesses. And I love music. I started making music. I wrote my first rhyme in 92. Then I got into beat making around 94, 95-ish. Got my first drum machine in 93. So yeah, about 93. And then I just I like to bring awareness to these types of topics. I talk about Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. I just interviewed this gentleman out in the UK about crop circles. So I think it's just very interesting, and I like to just kind of bridge the gap to the hip-hop community for people that might not be aware or might not take it too seriously, but at least they can hear and listen in. And it's just something that I decided to do. I lost my mother January this year.
My condolences.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. My mom, she introduced me to some books when I was little, like books about Nostradamus and things like that. Just that whole mystery side of everything. I really just draws me to it. Like I look up at the sky at night, looking at the stars, and it's just there's something else going on. There's something else out there, because this just can't be it. Everybody's born, they're gonna die one day, and what does it all mean?
Of course. Well,
I love the topic,
Yeah, no, let me put you on to something. Well, if you don't know, music is directly connected to the paranormal, especially if you're into what we call spirits or anything in that zone. Music is Like you know, in a different spectrum, you could see music. You can see the tones, the wavelengths, and the energy that it emits. And anything in a physical any physical realm will emit a tone and a wavelength.
That's crazy.
So
That's crazy, you said.
when you're doing music, a studio, a stage is a hotbed for spiritual activity and paranormal activity, because what you're doing is you're emitting these tones and energy wavelengths out, which these frequencies attract. And that's why nobody seems to understand. It's a primal thing, but the right tone, the right beat, which is also the tone, the right tones will change your mood. There's music that you can make that makes you want to knock somebody the hell out. There's music that makes you want to go to sleep. There's music that makes you want to make love. There's music that calms you down. The music that gets you anxious. That's not by accident. People just think, oh, I like it. It makes me hype. No, it's a little bit more than that. And so when you're doing these, when you're creating these frequencies and these tones and these timbres, you're subconsciously opening and unlocking different pathways. And not to sound weird or anything like that, but that's just a 100% known thing. If
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's crazy you start talking about the tones and the frequencies, because the other night I interviewed Seth Shostak from the SETI Institute. They search for life in outer space, and he was touching base on the same thing about the frequencies.
Yeah, but that's how they explore. They explore by sending out these tones and frequencies, and they look for the echo or the return tone. You could take that back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when they hit those 4 notes, and that's how they communicated. That's not fiction. You know what I'm saying? They fictionalize it, but if there was any kind of way to communicate with a life form other than humanoid, we would have to use music. Music equates to math. Math and music will definitely be the language that we create, that we have to communicate with some other being, whether it's in spiritual or in physical. That's the way to do it. So yeah, I have numerous studio encounters, paranormal studio encounters, like numerous.
Really?
So it's not.
Can you share one with us?
Yeah, no, it's not even. I'll share too if you want. There was a studio I used in Philadelphia back in the days. It was called K-Gem, and K-Gem was an old converted factory for Smith & Wesson gun factory, and it was an old converted building, and it was used. It was a studio, and the way the studio was set up, just think of a square within a square within a square. So the first square, you can totally cut around the whole studio on the outskirts of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a hallway that's like a square. Yeah, it goes around the whole studio. And then, within the hallway, there's offices, and there's like in the back of the studio, technically the back of the studio, there's a lounge. And then the second square would be what we call the live room. So we could put a whole orchestra in one room. Both two rooms you could put a whole orchestra in. But as you're walking through the hallways, huh?
I said that place is big.
Yeah, no, it's a huge studio. So one of the live rooms was also a basketball court. So that shows you how big the room was. It's a full-size court. But it was able to put, if we had to do like 30 or 40 piece orchestras, we could put them in, either the vocal booth can hold the orchestra. The basketball court was made for orchestration. So, and then the smallest square is the control room, where the mix board is and, where I worked on music and everything. So I would usually work throughout the night. I would get there maybe 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and I'd probably leave at 6 in the morning every night. And it would just be me, my engineer, and my assistant. So one night, I leave the control room, I go down the hallway, and now when you go down the hallway, you can look, there are windows or doors that you can look into the big live rooms, and you can see across the room. All right? So I'm going down the hallway, looking across into one of the live rooms, and I see a guy, clear as day, with a red V-neck sweater on. Keep it pushing. Go into the lounge, do something, walk past the live room again. I see him in the live room, make nothing of it. Go into the control room and say, yeah, who's the guy with the red sweater? So everybody starts laughing, the engineer and the assistant. I'm like, what the hell's so funny? Is that, you met Richie? I'm like, Richie? Who the hell's Richie? The resident ghost. That means you've been here long enough, and he's comfortable. I'm like, what?
I believe, bro. There's this psychic lady that I'm going to be interviewing soon. She's on the Travel Channel. Her name is Intuitive April. I'll send you her link. You can check her out. But she like sees spirits, and she's like a medium when she communicates with them. Yeah. So yeah, I believe.
So it was like, they just gave him a nickname or whatever. So I was like, yeah, right, whatever. And then another night, maybe a week or two go by, and in the control room is a door, and the door has like a small window, like a small rectangular window. So you can kind of see out, but if somebody was looking into the control room, you can see it. Same 3 people in the room. And at the door, looking in, is Richie. Everybody saw it. No one made any, nobody got scared. Nobody, it was what it was. And I'm like, I remember, I'm like, am I the only one that just saw my man at the door? And it was like, no, it happens all the time.
I got to let her know about that, because she lives up in Jersey, and they go out to different haunted locations all the time. So I'm gonna let her know about that.
Yeah.
Is the building still there now?
It's a condominium now. This was literally 30 years ago. Now it's a condominium.
I wonder if anybody has any sightings at the condo.
Yeah, right. And the funny thing is, if at sometimes, and it sounds weird, but at times you could hear. We believe that he killed himself at the gun factory. So at times they claim that you can hear maybe faint screaming, but you can hear faint noises that make you think that people are within the building.
Absolutely, that's that electronic voice phenomenon, EVP recordings, and actual live audio that you can hear sometimes. I've seen that, heard that plenty of times.
Yeah, so that's just one of them. Another one was within my own home. My every place I've ever lived, I've been fortunate enough to be able to build a full a full studio. And, you know, and being able to build studios, you know, I was in 2007, 2006, I lost my brother. And yeah, and thank you. And so I remember being in a studio session, and one of the songwriters were like, who else is here? And so immediately my thing was, instead of saying nobody, which nobody was, I was like, what did you see? I just saw somebody walk by. You know, in my control room, it's almost like a miniature version of that first studio that I used to work at in Philly, a square within a square. So it was like a small like hallway, and you can look out from my control room into the hallway, and you can look into the control room. So if somebody would say, for example, going to the vocal booth or going to the bathroom, if you're in the control room, you can see them walk by. So she was like, well, I just saw somebody walk by 2 times. I'm like, okay, well, describe who you saw. And this girl never met my brother, never knew that I had one, anything. Described him to a T. And I just kept it pushing. I was like, oh, that's my brother. And I never told her if he was alive or dead. I just, you know, you described my brother, and that was it.
Wow, man. You know, I had something similar happen shortly after my mom passed. I didn't see her, but sure as I'm sitting here talking to you, I was out here in my little garage. I set up my studio here in my garage, and I was just wrapping up one night. I was going in the house, and when I closed the door, I heard my mom say my name. She said, Bobby. And I got like goosebumps. And I know I heard her, and yeah.
No, definitely. They, you know, your people close to you, you know, I can go into this for hours, man. My beliefs are very strong when it comes to, you know, what, you know, some call paranormal or the spirit realm or whatever you want to call it. You know, I definitely have deep-rooted beliefs and deep-rooted history in seeing. It's not like Richie, the ghost in the studio, or my brother in my house is clearly not the first time I've ever witnessed it. You know, I have a lifelong of stories. Whether it's mine, my brother was extra heavy with it. My brother would see stuff all the time, you know, up until the point that to the point that he passed away. He was very sick, and he was literally letting me know that he was starting to see family members showing up in the hospital room, you know, past family members. So, you know, we had a very close and open relationship when it came to things like that. So, yeah, man, that's, I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime, but the one thing I need to see before I check out is a real actual alien landing. Not no speculation. I need to see it happen. Like, that's my thing. Like, show me that. Like, really, proof. I want proof that no one can deny. You know, everybody has their individual sightings and stories, but I need to see something that happens where no one can deny it, and everybody can just shut up about if things are fake or not. Like, okay, here it is right in front of you now. Welcome to the new world.
How do you think people might react if that does happen? I believe it's coming to disclosure and just the actual event of making contact. How do you think society will react to that?
I think that the first tier to react in a crazy way would be the religious part of society, because religion has taught us that it's just us. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, the Vatican, they have they have their own giant telescope that they have out looking for stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, there's no way that no one is gonna think that it's just us. I think that space is so infinitely vast. It's not a matter of is it just us? It's a matter of how are you going to get here? And out of all the places to go, why here? There can be less advanced, there could be 10 times more advanced places that are in existence that that can be traveled to. And it doesn't have to be us. But even deeper than that, I think people are so inherently narcissistic that they think that whoever's going to come visit is going to somewhat be like us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where
think of life in ways we can't even imagine.
Yeah, like how do we not know? And I'm not trying to sound weird, but there are billions of different life forms on this planet now.
Yep.
Who's to say that a form of insect isn't alien? Who's to say a form of bacteria isn't alien? Who's to say something that lives at the ocean floor that self-illuminates isn't already? Yeah, who's to say that they're not already here? You could go deeper than that. Who's to say that the different types of people on this planet or different types of animals or whatever, who's to say that there wasn't a master ark billions of years ago that gathered and then transported, and Earth is more like a zoo and a collective of different species than things just starting here. But we're so quick to think that everything happened right here, that we don't stop to think that maybe those other things could possibly. And all I'm trying to say is there are infinite possibilities. And 200 years ago, we couldn't understand. 1,000 years ago, we couldn't understand what's going on. 10,000 years ago, we couldn't understand half of the things that we know now. So God only knows what's going to be in the next 1,000 to 10,000 years. Our level of understanding of how to do things, what's happening, and what's really been going on.
Definitely. There's a lot of things going on the planet. With everything going on with the coronavirus, just switch the gears up a little bit. How is everything around where you're at? It's like
I can't find toilet paper. That's my main thing. But
it's not around here either.
Yeah, people think that toilet paper will hoarding toilet paper is going to be the cure-all. So that doesn't make any sense. But this is, like I said, this is just something very interesting. I just like watching human behavior, watching how this whole thing plays out. So it's
shut down schools down here for like the rest of the school year. Some of the schools are shut down.
Yeah, and so what does that mean for the kid? Do all kids get left back? Like what is that supposed to mean?
Well, they're going to supply all the kids with laptops, and they're just going to be online learning now. Best they can. It's crazy. Like the whole way of living in the U.S. has changed in the past couple of weeks. And bro, I was thinking, this is me and my friend when we were talking about this, that the leader Kim Jong-un over in the North Korea, like we were thinking, like, was this that gift that he was promising the United States back right before Christmas in 2019? Is this that gift? Is some type of biological warfare? It's crazy.
Well, it could be that, or it could be You remember just 3 weeks ago, we were supposed to be at war's door with Iran. And Iran is one of the most hardest hit countries with this coronavirus. How do we know that wasn't a biologic that we dropped? You know what I'm saying? And it got out of control. Coronavirus has been around for over 10 years. So it's clearly someone manipulating with biological concoctions, and it could have just gotten out of hand because we had SARS, we had Zika, we had Ebola, all this other stuff, but for some reason we're getting extra paranoid and extra panicky over this. I can't understand that. That's the part I can't understand.
Yeah, man. You gotta take it one day at a time. So, man, how can people keep up the speed with what you're doing? I know you got the new Living Green project. Are you working on any new projects or any other artists you're working with?
I'm definitely working. My thing is I like showing, not talking about it. I like to announce my arrival, not announce me. I don't like to announce an announcement. If that makes any sense. I like to say, this is it. This is where it is. Here it is. And I think a lot of people make that mistake. I'm working on this. I'm working on that. There are several, I would say, key things that I am working on or have been working on, especially, this year. Outside of Vivian, there's an underground artist named Bobby J from Rockaway that I've been working with. I've been working with him for years, and he has, this dude is so dope. Y'all got to check him out. You can go on Instagram, check him out at Bobby J from Rockaway. He has an album out now called Summer Classics. He just did an album with Static Selector, so that's about to drop in a couple of weeks. And now we're going to start working on the new album pretty soon. And, if you got beats, definitely, submit to that. That'll be a cool project to get on. The album that we have, Summer Classics, we have Little Fame from MOP. He got records with Static Selector, got records with Jake One. Me, rapping on the album as well as producing a majority of the album. Killer Priest, we got a record with. So, he has some joints out there. So definitely check him out. Bobby J from Rockaway. And, my thing is, follow me on social media. And when it's time to announce what it is, trust me, I will let people know. I try to be as humble about it as possible. That's very important to me because there's a lot of people out here, just straight flexing on people, and that's never been what I do. I just try to create music, and then I try to share it. This whole journey for me has just been one big art experiment to begin with. So it's like, when something new comes, I definitely want to share it, but at the same time I like to keep them guessing, and I like to keep people thinking. I don't mind people counting me out or not counting me at all, and then just showing up out of left field like, haha, surprise. That's always been my thing. I like to do that. I don't, I never I'm not good at talking about myself or talking about something I'm going to do or trying to do. I hate doing that.
When you were just talking about, all the different strange things that you've witnessed, you said there's been many different events, I think that would be like a great book, man. I think people would love to hear those stories. You ever thought of turning that into a book?
Man, I think there's so many things that happen that I've been witness to that could make great books. Or I was just thinking yesterday, Dag, I should I want to write a science fiction book, or or either based on true story or a comic book or something.
Could turn into a movie script.
Yeah. Things like that can easily develop with the right opportunities. So I would not say no, because I think as I get older, you always think about what's the next chapter, what's the next thing that you want to do, and it's you never put your eggs in that one basket. So my thing is, okay, what if I don't do music anymore? What if I slow down with the music? What else do I want to do? And I think writing is definitely one of the aspects of creativity that I want to get into, and start exploring. And shoot, now with everybody sitting at home quarantined and things like that, I'm like, this is what producers and artists do all the time. We're always stuck at home working on something. So, maybe take some of this time to start planting those seeds as well.
Awesome, man. Well, I am definitely looking forward to it. Once again, we got Kwame on the live from Planet X podcast. Kwame, I know I don't want to hold you up too long, though. You just let me know when you got to go. But I give you the floor right now. You can plug anything you want. Let people know your social media. Floor is yours. Mike's yours.
Well, cool. Thank you. Right now, just if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Kwame Vision. Follow me on Twitter. It's Kwame Did It. And on Facebook is just, my band page is just Kwame. But, my main focus has always been on Instagram. I'm a visual person. I probably won't be on TikTok. I'm not trying to be silly all day messing around with that. Yeah, man. It's like that's the social media site to just bug out. So, a lot of the things that I do, a lot of things that I push, I definitely push through those mediums first. The thing that's currently out is a production that I did for Vivian Green called Light Up. Single. We just dropped that single. The album just got completed, so that album comes out. Her album is called Love Absolute, and that album comes out on June 19th as of now, but it may get pushed back a month because of COVID-19. Thank you. So if it's not going to be June 19th, it's going to be in July. And just stay tuned, because there are some big things that I have just completed, but not able to say yet. Thank you. But it's a big art project that I just completed that I think some people will appreciate seriously. And yeah, so just check it out. I'm always there.
No doubt. And I will, in the description for the video, I will put his different links and his contact information in the description for the video, so you guys look out for that. And if you like what you're listening to, give me a thumbs up and click subscribe. This is Zaire, the Planet X ambassador, with the live from Planet X podcast, and I'm going to try to keep it interesting. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Kwame.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So much. No, God, thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, man.